Hey guys, just a quick note at the top of the video. I have commissions open! Check out the link in the description or send me an email at magicalgirlartist@gmail.com for more info. Okay, on with the show. Bye! Hey everyone, it's been a while. I was so sure I'd be able to post videos more often this year, and watchening videos in particular, but, well, life, you know? Anyway, let's not waste a lot of time on an intro. Today we're talking about the 6th PreCure season, Fresh PreCure. This is one that I managed to walk into with exactly zero prior knowledge or expectations. At most, I think I might have seen the character designs and immediately clocked the mid-season cure, but that's about it. I started watching this series around March of 2020 because, like many people at that time, for some reason I had a lot of time on my hands all of a sudden. My brother was staying with me for a while for plague reasons, and I remember him walking in on me in the middle of an episode and being utterly baffled by the fact that Cure Pine wasn't, like, pine tree themed. "Why are they based on fruits?" he asked. "Look man, I don't know what to tell you," I answered. "It's because they're fresh, I guess." I was worried going into this one. Like, so far, I had enjoyed the 3 Futariwa series okay, but they weren't, like, huge for me or anything, and the last 2 series I'd outright hated. I was so scared going into Fresh that maybe I'd been wrong, maybe I didn't actually like PreCure as much as I thought I did. My worst nightmare was that Fresh would be more of the same as Yes 5 and Go-Go, and I'd be suffering through a 3rd season in a row that I had to force myself to sit down and watch. Thankfully, that didn't turn out to be the case. I mentioned at the end of the last video that Fresh PreCure is the series that saved PreCure. To be totally honest, I'm not 100% sure how true that is on account of I don't work at Toei and can't confirm anything. But the story goes that the series wasn't doing super great. None of the subsequent series after the original Futariwa did anywhere near as well. Yes 5 helped revitalize things, but Go-Go didn't do as well as that. Then Fresh came along and it was popular enough to keep PreCure going even further. Again, I can't speak to how true that is, but that's the narrative I see floating around the internet. And whether or not it's true, it's certainly the series that saved PreCure for me specifically. Like I said, I'd hated Yes 5 and Go-Go so much that I was worried I now hated all of PreCure, and Fresh helped prove that wasn't the case. Fresh PreCure introduces yet another new cast of characters and establishes several tropes and elements that we'll see become standard for PreCure going forward. For example, if the series starts with a trio, it's a safe bet they'll be pink, blue, and yellow, which is first established here. People complain about this on Twitter, like, a lot. I don't get it. I think it's a nice color scheme. There's also the first appearance of a baby mascot, which we'll get to, and the first mid-season redemption arc cure, which we'll get to, and the first dance ED, sort of, which, again, we'll get to. But the big thing Fresh established was the standalone PreCure season. Up until this point, we've had exactly one standalone season, Splash Star. Futariwa and Yes 5 both got sequels, but there are no more sequel series going forward. Every series from Fresh onward is 1 season long and doesn't get a continuation. Again, I don't work at Toei, but I suspect it's because neither Max Heart nor Go-Go did as well as their respective prequel series, and it was easier to do a tidy done-in-one than try and come up with a satisfying reason why the bad guy is back now, or a new, more dangerous villain for the sequel. You see this in stuff like Super Sentai or Girls Heroine all the time. You can always keep things fresh, pun intended, and... Oh my god, is that why this series is called Fresh PreCure? Because it's a fresh spin on things? I'm legitimately just figuring this out now. Does anyone have, like, an uncle that works at Toei that can confirm my hot new conspiracy theory or something? Anyway, you can keep things fresh with a new cast of characters, new story, and so on every season, while still also maintaining high marketability, because this is, at the end of the day, a 24-minute weekly toy commercial. So, for the actual plot, our main characters are Love, Miki, and Inori, 3 middle school students and childhood friends. They get chosen as PreCure by the Pickrons, who basically become their transformation devices, and meet Tart, a ferret who is babysitting Chiffon, a weird teddy bear baby thing. Together, they're tasked with stopping Mobius and the citizens of Labyrinth, an evil otherworldly dictatorship, as well as taking care of Chiffon. The general vibe of the series is, once again, the Monster of the Week format, with labyrinth attacks that are sometimes the main plot of the episode and sometimes just there at the end because we have to have one. It mostly focuses on the main characters' relationships, whether that's the girls with each other, with their families, with Tarte and Chiffon, or with other people who live in their town. PreCure is nothing if not a character-driven story. Also, they form a dance group. This is a major part of the plot. They spend a lot of time practicing their dancing. One of the major villains, Is, spends a lot of time in disguise as a girl named Setsuna, using this disguise to get close to Love and the others and sabotage them. As she befriends the Cures, though, she starts actually caring for them and eventually rebels against Mobius, becoming a PreCure herself. Thus begins the long-standing tradition of the mid-season cure. Previously, if a new magical girl was added to the cast, it would be in the sequel, or right at the very end, sort of, maybe. With no more sequels, though, now they have to put them somewhere in the middle. It'll be interesting charting what this looks like going forward, since while there's definitely a pattern to how it works, it's not exactly the same every time. Some of my favorite episodes include basically any plot involving or about Westar, my sweet, perfect himbo king. All the episodes where Is tries to sabotage the Cures only for it to backfire. The one with the sick girl who wants to meet PreCure. The Kaoru episode. And the one with Love's mom getting pod-personed. I'll be honest, I like the designs in this season for the most part, but this is the first time I've looked at the Cures for a season and thought, yeah, I don't buy these as 14-year-olds. Previous PreCure seasons did tend to skew a little younger in their character designs, making the 13 and 14-year-old protagonists look more like 11 or 12-year-olds, but I don't mind that so much. I think making characters look a little younger than they are is fine, as long as it's not like a 20-year-old who looks 8 or some shit. But it does feel like they made these characters look a little older, closer to 16 or 17, and then used that as an excuse to make the outfits skimpier. I don't necessarily think it's a cardinal sin to have a teenager in a skimpy outfit or anything. I do actually like a lot of stuff in these outfits. I think they're supposed to have an idol and or cheerleader vibe to them, which makes sense on account of the dance troupe they form. I love Passion's skirt and leggings combo, mostly because that's a look that I wear a lot in real life myself. Their hair is way better than it was in Splash Star or Yes 5, and I love all the little unifying design elements. The X's or lacing or whatever, the heart hair accessories, the cute clover chest emblem, the wrist accessories, the boots and socks, the skirt ruffles, and probably more that I'm forgetting, honestly. I mentioned that one of my issues with the character designs for Yes 5 and Go-Go is that they all looked like they were wearing the same outfit. This kind of thing is my favorite for Magical Girl teams. They look different enough from each other to distinguish them as totally different outfits, but they're unified enough to make it obvious they're a team. I just think it's a little head-tilting that the first time we get characters who look slightly older is the first time we get designs that are meant to show that off. That's all. Barry gets the worst of it, I think, what with her teeny top and absolute tube of a torso. Also, Pine looks like a Gijinka of a Sonic character. I couldn't tell you why I think that, or even what character, but I had that thought while I was drawing her, and I had to put it in here somewhere. The transformation devices this scene are cell phones again, which is disappointing, but at least they actually get used as cell phones this time. I like Setsuna's funky little 2000s goth phone. I love that she's allowed to have black accents to her outfits and stuff since she's like the ex-bad guy and whatever. I just think it's cool. As for the transformations themselves, I really like these ones. The background music for this season's henshins is one of my morning alarms, and I think I have it on a few playlists. I like that there's actually movement this time, with skating and spinning and flying and changing camera angles and all that stuff, plus parts of the outfit appearing one by one. I've missed that. I also think it's neat that while the other three all shoot up into the air for their transformation, Setsuna spins down below instead. There are a lot of little things about Setsuna that set her apart from the rest of the team, while still keeping to the theme so it doesn't feel like she doesn't belong. It's a very well done set of transformation sequences, and I like them a lot. Fresh has some of my favorite opening and ending themes so far. Let's Fresh PreCure is energetic, fun, and catchy. It had me wiggling along in my seat while I watched. I think it's the first opening that I like more than Danzin, even. Don't get me wrong, Danzin is a classic and has a special place in my heart forever, but I love badly singing along to Let's Fresh in the car. About halfway through, when Setsuna joined the main cast for real, the OP was updated to Let's Fresh PreCure Hybrid version. And honestly, as much as I like the original Let's Fresh, the hybrid version is even better in my opinion. I think the instrumentation is better, and it just works better for me. Fresh is the first season to update their OP in the middle of a season. Futariwa got a new version of Danzan for its sequel, Yes 5 got an entirely new song for its second season, and poor Splash Star had to make do with updated visuals and nothing else. Fresh got an entirely new re-recorded version of its OP for the second half of the season. I don't think this is the last time this happens, but I think it's more common going forward to just use the second half of the song for the second half of the season. Don't quote me on that though, especially since I didn't notice it until Go Princess. Anyway, the opening is good, but the big thing here is the ending themes. Like I mentioned, Fresh PreCure was the genesis of a lot of PreCure tropes, in this case, the dance ending. Sort of. In my last two videos, I talked about Gambalance de Dance, and how it was the ending for not one, not two, but 3 seasons, and how there was a consistent dance to go along with it. I think that's kind of the prototype for the dance ED, so I like to count it. But You Make Me Happy, the first Fresh ending, is technically the first dance ED proper. I just like to point out Gambalance because I think it's cute, and also it's the last 2D animated ending we've ever gotten as of this writing in 2022. I, unfortunately, have thoughts and feelings about the dance endings. I'm not hugely into them as a whole. Don't get me wrong, I think they're fun, and I love the idea of a bunch of kids popping up off the couch to dance along with the ending after an episode of their favorite show. I just kind of wish it hadn't become the standard, you know? I like it here, partly because I just like the songs, and partly because the main characters literally form a dance group in the text of the show, but there are so many other ways to do endings that PreCure will never get to do because of their marriage to the dance ED. It's an extremely dumb, petty, and personal thing, but I had to fit this opinion in somewhere, so here we are. Moving on, though. You Make Me Happy, well, makes me happy. It's the first ending that I watched every episode because I liked it so much. Like Let's Fresh, it's a fun little bop that's easy to dance to. And dance to I have. You can find the PreCure dance lessons online that basically show you how to do all the dances from here forward, and this was the first one I learned. I'm not very good at it, but it's fun. It has a permanent spot in my dancercise playlist. The second ED is obviously also a dance ED. Happy Together isn't as good as You Make Me Happy, in my opinion, but I still watched it every episode. I liked it a lot, just not as much as You Make Me Happy. I'm also not sure why they replaced the A with an @ symbol, but whatever, it was 2009, I guess we were still doing that stuff then. The dance is also cute, but again, still like You Make Me Happy better. So after the absolute train wreck of Yes 5, where I hated everyone except a couple minor characters, I was worried going into Fresh that I wouldn't like any of these characters either. Thankfully, Love endeared herself to me right away. She's feisty, cheerful, and stubborn, and whether those are good things or not is 100% dependent on the situation. Not to keep dunking on Yes 5 all the time, but compare her and Nozomi's first introductions. Nozomi's intro has her running late to school before getting distracted by a butterfly and having a meet cute with a dude. Love's intro has her crying her heart out, not because something bad happened to her as her friends originally believe, but because she encouraged a classmate to ask a guy out and it went badly. Nozomi's introduction doesn't really tell us a lot about her. She's late for school and she likes butterflies and cute boys. Those aren't character traits, although Yes 5 sure likes to act like they are. Love's introduction establishes her as a pushy meddler with a big heart right away, and that's a pretty consistent characterization throughout the series. That's not to say Love is never tiring to watch. There were a couple misunderstanding or argument-related plots, usually involving Daisuke, that were grating, but that was at least as much his fault as it was hers. I feel like Love would be an exhausting person to be friends with, but I still like her as a character. Next we have Miki, and, well, honestly I think she's the most boring out of all of them. Like, she's fine, I don't dislike her, per se. I think she has some neat plot lines and stuff. Her whole thing is that she's a model and holds herself to an extremely high standard, and when she finds herself unable to meet that standard, she immediately panics. Which, like, don't get me wrong, that is extremely relatable. I just wasn't hugely invested in her as a character most of the time, that's all. I was really disappointed by her biggest fear episode where the whole point is lol, Mickey is scared of octopi, because that's such a boring way to do a biggest fear episode, but in fairness, PreCure has never exactly knocked that concept out of the park. I did really like the episode where she's trying to get Chiffon to upgrade her powers. It showed off her insecurities and controlling tendencies in a way that I thought worked really well. I don't know, she's fine as a character, but she doesn't exactly take up a lot of real estate in my brain. Inori, or Buki, on the other hand, was my favorite from Jump, beginning a long tradition of the Yellow Cure being my favorite, and also getting the shaft. She's the shy sweetheart of the group. Her family runs a vet clinic, and she wants to be a vet like them when she grows up, which is super cute, good for her. I like that her power is supposed to be a healing thing instead of an outright attack like the others, despite doing basically the same thing. Honestly, even her biggest fear episode is better than Mickey's, because while yes, Mickey's was meant to be a way for her and Setsuna to get closer and find some common ground, it was still a very silly thing that came completely out of nowhere and was mostly played for laughs. Buki's was definitely also played as comedic most of the time, since her biggest fear is ferrets, but it was at least a previously established thing and something that went hand in hand with her characterization and goals. I don't know, I'm just biased, I guess. I really like Buki. And of course we have Setsuna. Setsuna started as Ys, the first labyrinth denizen we meet in episode 1. She's the series' first mid-season cure, as well as the first redemption cure. Sort of, unless we count Kaoru and Michiru, which most people don't. Her redemption arc is really well done in my opinion. She starts out as being totally on board with Mobius and his goals, and initially only starts spending time with the cures as a means of finding ways to take them down. She's cynical and mean and thinks the others are either just pretending to be good people or stupid enough to actually think goodness can exist in the world. Eventually, though, she realizes that she's wrong, that Mobius is wrong, and there are good people who do good things for no reason other than because they're good or right. I know that the bad guy who gets redeemed by love is an overused trope, and an extremely literal one in this case, but I don't care. I love it. I think it's really well done here. Love, the character, is instrumental in Setsuna switching sides, but in the end, it's something that she does willingly by changing her worldview and by wanting to grow. Okay, so, mascots. I love Tart. He's this perfect blend of anxious and overly confident, and I love his interactions with Love. He calls her P-chan, that's adorable. I think he's the first mascot so far that I've really enjoyed as a character. I love his kind of scratchy voice and his Kansai dialect and his weird friendship with Kaoru. When we eventually found out he's a prince, I immediately got scared because of Coco memories, but thankfully he already has a fiancé who he gets along with really well. Azukina is honestly very cute and sweet, even if design-wise she's basically just Tart but pink. Chiffon is another first for the series, the first baby mascot. As a general rule, I immediately dislike baby mascots because their whole thing ends up being, oh hey little girls, look, caring for babies is so good and cool. However, I think the fact that Chiffon is a teddy bear looking thing instead of a literal human baby helps her a lot. Yes, a lot of plot points revolve around having to take care of a baby in the end, but it really is neat to see her grow with her relationship with the cures. In the back half of the series, when it's revealed that she's Infinity, a lot of the plots instead revolve around her not going catatonic and getting kidnapped, and it's actually very sweet seeing how much the other characters care about her. Personality-wise, there's not a lot to say. She's a baby. Wow, I think this season has the fewest mascots since the original Futariwa. Unless we count Azukina, which I don't. She's barely in the show. I mostly only brought her up because of Tart. Let's move on to villains. The main villains of PreCure are often non-entities up until the last few episodes, and Mobius isn't much of an exception. He mostly just hangs around in Labyrinth and gives out orders to his various minions. I think the twist of making him a computer program gone rogue is interesting, but I like it better in other media, like Omnitron in Sentinels of the Multiverse. Yes, that's the reference I'm going with. Hal who? Mobius's thing is that he thinks everything would be better and easier for everyone if they just gave up their free will and emotions and let him take over. A classic robot/computer kids villain motivation. He's fine. Like every other PreCure villain before him, and a lot after, he's less interesting than his various minions. Said minions are Ys, who we've already talked about as Setsuna, Westar, Saular, and eventually Northa. Like Ys, Westar and Saular are regular citizens of Labyrinth who got brainwashed and made into Mobius's minions. Westar is my sweet, wonderful himbo king. He's just some guy. He's Ys's dumb older brother who doesn't understand why they aren't all friends. He's literally the perfect man. I'm so glad PreCure keeps feeding me like this. My himbo bias may make Westar into my fave by default, but Saular is pretty alright too. In contrast to Westar's dumbassery and Ys's undercover subterfuge, he tends to hang around in the background and use sneakiness and trickery to take on the Cures. I do think his methods are the most interesting to watch, and I'm glad he and Westar get to be good guys at the end. Setsuna has so many brothers now, good for her. Northa is the last general to show up after Ys becomes Cure Passion, and is the only one to not get redeemed at the end. Unlike the rest of them, she's not a regular person who got brainwashed. She was artificially created by Mobius from a plant, and has plant powers and theming. She's ruthless and manipulative, and honestly, her episodes were some of my least favorite because she was just kind of creepy. I mean, she was a pretty effective villain in that way, but like, still. There's also a kind of butler, right-hand man type guy named Klein, who is honestly the least interesting out of all of them. Remember when I talked in the Splash Star video about how Goyon being Akudaiken's right-hand man was subverted in an interesting way later? Yeah, with Klein it's just played totally straight. He's just a fanatically loyal second-in-command. There really isn't much else to him. He's barely in the series, and maybe if he was in it more, he'd be developed more, but as is, he's just kind of there to turn into a big monster for the Cures to fight at the end. That's it for villains, so let's move on to side characters. Love's mom, Ayumi, is a stay-at-home mom and a real standout in regards to PreCure side characters. She's in the show from the first episode and has multiple episodes dedicated to her relationship with Love and later Setsuna. She's kind and patient, firm without being strict, and just someone I could see myself getting along with if she was a parent volunteers at one of my schools or something. I love Ayumi. Her relationship with Setsuna is one of my favorite parts of the season, and honestly in PreCure as a whole. The episode where she gets replaced with Asoro Watese and only Setsuna realizes it is one of my favorites for a reason. It's literally so good. Everyone pause the video and go watch it right now. It's episode 40. I assume you've just come back from watching Fresh PreCure episode 40. Isn't it so good? We'll talk more about Ayumi later when we discuss the finale. The other various parents and other family members of the Cures aren't nearly as interesting, in my opinion. None of them get the same amount of screen time or plot lines as Ayumi. They're all fine, I guess. Miki is the first Cure whose parents are divorced, so that's something. It's a little weird that she makes her brother pretend to be her boyfriend to make boys leave her alone, though. As someone who has had their brother mistaken for their boyfriend before, it's extremely weird and awkward. Straight people really will see a guy and a girl-adjacent person together and assume they're dating no matter how much they look like siblings. But I'm probably just projecting. There are other great side characters in Fresh, though. Kaoru runs the local donut stand, and it's actually donuts for real this time. He's the fun, weird uncle type. He mostly hangs around as set dressing and to give the girls questionable life advice. He gives Tart a job. He used to be a secret agent man. I love him. Then there's Miyuki, the lead of the dance group Trinity. I guess the other two members of Trinity are there too, but Miyuki is the only one who really matters. She's a mentor for the team, teaching them dancing and giving them less questionable life advice than Kaoru. She's also one of the first civilians who learns about their secret identities, and a red herring, almost literally, for the 4th PreCure. I like her. Part of me kind of wishes she did become a Cure, because having a mentor character become a part of the team proper would be cool, and I'm always in favor of older magical girls. I like Setsuna too much to be really bummed about it, though. I just think it would have been neat. I enjoyed Miyuki. Someone I enjoyed significantly less, though, is her younger brother Daisuke and his friends. Honestly, I don't think Daisuke did anything bad or wrong or whatever. He's just an archetype I don't like. The boy next door love interest who's constantly bickering with the protagonist while everyone around them laughs and says, "Oh, aren't they just like an old married couple?" Ugh. If it wasn't for the fact that he's supposed to be a love interest for love, I probably wouldn't mind him so much, but PreCure has so far got a really shitty track record with love interests, and Daisuke isn't exactly breaking that streak. Syrup and Urara can stay, but they're on thin fucking ice. I just found Daisuke to be shitty and entitled through most of his appearances, and then it's all Love's fault because she wasn't listening to Daisuke or whatever, and ugh. His friends weren't much better. Honestly, I don't even remember their names, and I can't be bothered to look them up despite having the wiki open in another tab right now. That's how little of an impact they made. They're literally just there to be love interests for Miki and Buki, and the only one who's even slightly tolerable is the Buki boy because he gets a whole little adventure with her as Kirpine, and it's kind of cute. Miki's love interest has no character outside of being Miki's love interest. Absolutely superfluous characters. It's too bad, honestly, because I really like most of the other characters in Fresh. From the cures, to the mascots, to the villains, to most of the major side characters, this season has stood out to me so far as one that I've really enjoyed the characters for. And to be fair, even when I don't like one of them, it's mostly just because I think they're boring or unmemorable, not because they're awful, so that's not all bad. I'm just saying, it could be a lot worse. And it has. Fresh has a lot of the same strengths as the original Futariwa, where most of the stakes are fairly personal and small scale, but the plot still feels like it's moving forward most of the time. Don't get me wrong, Fresh definitely has some clunker filler episodes, but for the most part, it doesn't feel like we're spending episode after episode just dicking around and getting nothing done. I guess it helps that I like the characters, so even if we are just dicking around, it doesn't feel like I'm wasting my time. But anyways, about that finale. I love it when a show like this ends with the characters revealing their identities, either to the world or just to the people close to them. Either way, it's good every time. In the last few episodes of Fresh, Mobius gets Infinity, the MacGuffin he's been after all season that turned out to be Chiffon. With her, he's able to start taking over other worlds besides just Labyrinth. The main characters realize they're going to have to take the fight to him, but that means leaving their friends and families behind before their world gets assimilated. If they win, they'll be able to save everyone. But if they lose, everyone is gone forever. PreCure has done this kind of thing multiple times already, but the difference here is that the girls choose to tell their families what's going on before they leave, and it makes for some really, really good character drama. One moment that really sticks with me is where all the parents are talking about the situation and none of them want to let the girls go. They're all so worried about it, and the girls wind up sneaking off to go to Labyrinth anyway. Then Buki's dad speaks up and says they should think about it from their daughters' perspectives, and that prompts Ayumi to realize that if they don't let the girls go off and fight, they'll regret it forever. They wind up reconciling and sending their daughters off with their blessings, and it's just very sweet. There's also a bit with Daisuke, but we're going to ignore that. The episodes after that are pretty good also. I like the Barry and Pine versus Westar and Sauler fight. Some seasons, which I won't name, tend to get really bogged down by having the pink lead cure do everything, especially in the finale. Obviously, the first 3 seasons, being duo seasons, don't really have this issue, and for as much shit as I give Yes 5, it did avoid that for the most part, in my opinion, even if it did feel like Dream was the most important one a lot of the time. Fresh's ending few episodes felt like they gave each character something to do, so it didn't feel like 1 or 2 characters were the only ones who mattered. Yes, it was still clear that Peach is the protagonist, but it wasn't like the other 3 had nothing to do. Even Tart and Azukina got stuff to do. Honestly, the whole show felt like it had a fairly good balance between the characters. Maybe it's because the creative team had more experience writing for a full team after Yes 5, or maybe it's because there are only 4 cures instead of 5 or 6, or maybe it's something else entirely. But whatever it is, I feel like Fresh largely had a good balance of character-focused episodes. I still wish Buki had gotten more, but I'm biased. All in all, Fresh PreCure's plot is, like most PreCure seasons, fairly basic, but still fun and entertaining. I don't think it's particularly challenging or groundbreaking or anything, but, like, does it have to be? It's a fun watch, and that's all it needs to be. I am ashamed at how long it took me to figure out that Daisuke's name was a pun because he's Love's love interest. I feel like that's a joke that works better if you speak Japanese. Fresh is absolutely not the first season to have theme names, but in previous seasons I thought it made slightly more sense. Like, in Yes 5, the bad guys were all based around and named after things that are enemies to butterflies, like Bunbee is a wasp and stuff. I have no idea why the bad guys in this series are named after the 4 cardinal directions, and also Klein. At some Dragon Ball level, the Saiyans are named after vegetables for no reason shit right there. This is the second season in a row with a real-life comedy act appearing as themselves in the show. Again, I'm imagining, like, the McElroy brothers as themselves in Power Rangers. That would rule, actually. Never mind, I'm on board with this now. All the girls get a secondary power they can use outside of their transformations. Love can summon food, Mickey can create outfits, Inori can talk to animals, and Setsuna can teleport. I feel like we're a little unbalanced here. Speaking of Setsuna's teleporting, I was waiting for her to pull a maneuver in a fight where she teleported all over the place and did the whole teleports behind you thing. Well, it never happened in the show proper. At least we got it in the movie. I'm just gonna say it, I think Mickey is a lesbian. Fresh PreCure is a fun season. I'd definitely recommend it to people who want to see the genesis of a lot of PreCure tropes, or someone looking for a sweet magical girl series with great characters and a funky little dance you can add to your Dancercise playlist. Well, that about wraps that up. Come back next time for a discussion of Heartcatch PreCure. Bye!